I think you absolutely might be right. So we are not starting tonight with the Moshe theme song. Doesn't seem appropriate. Uh, except we're going to start with Al Kolela. Al hadvash v'al ha'oketz, al hamar v'hamatok, al bitenu hatinoket shmor eli hatov. על האש המבוערת, על המים הזכים, על האיש השב הביתה מן המרחקים, על כל אלה, שמור נא לי אלי הטוב, על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על נטע הקור נטוע, אל תשכח את התקווה, השיבני ואשובה על הארץ הטובה. השיבני ואשובה על הארץ הטובה. So this evening will be some sweetness and there will be some bitter. I realized sometime in the last week or two that I'm kind of serving as a curator, meaning I listen to a lot of different podcasts and I read a lot of different commentaries. And the ones I've been sharing are things I just want to share with you because I think they are well worth listening to, reading about. Yeah, so today was a hard day for me, as some of you already know. Every day there's a moment that triggers me, right? Something happens, someone says something, and it is really true that I'm finding it hard to study Torah these days because everything comes back to the matzav, right? And today it was studying about Yehuda, Judah, confronting Yosef, who he doesn't know is Yosef, is the viceroy, the second in command in Egypt. And and one time he quotes his father Yaakov, and one time he is saying it for himself, that he will die, where his father has said to him that he will die if Benjamin does not return, if Benjamin doesn't return. And basically, what we read into it in Chavruta this morning was that, well, first of all, the text said that would send my gray hairs to Shaol, right? And Shaol, we don't really know what that's about, but one of the definitions, it's a place you can't return from. I am looking at that as a place where there are no questions, or there are only questions. Shaol, Shoel, Sha'al, Lishol, maybe just that. And then where my mind went in Chavruta is the families of the hostages that were killed by the IDF. And I can't think of anything as a parent more horrific than any of my children dying before me. And then to have it happen this way, OMG, oh my God. So tonight, there's going to be some lighthearted reflections. We're going to hear Noah Ephron. Now Noah I think he's a genius. He's one of the hosts of a podcast called The Promised. And if you don't listen to that, You're missing a lot, and I can tell you more about that. But this episode, in which he did all by himself, apparently there is a WhatsApp group of IDF soldiers, reservists, and current soldiers who write home on this WhatsApp group. And Nora Ephron shares many of these letters home, and he'll be describing that for you. After that, I'm going to leave room for reflections for the thing we're going to be listening to. So we're going to be listening to two long pieces. First is this one, and the second one from Doniel and Hartman and Yossi Klein HaLevi from the Hartman Institute. And this was one of their many in a series of Israel at War. And this one that they talked about is titled "My Heart Is Broken," and you'll see why. And I so related to that. And then at the end, we'll do more reflection on that. And then at the end, I'm going to offer a video of a song that offers a little bit of hope. Latzeit mi de. Oh, I can't pronounce it. So I just learned this word for depression. It's called exiting depression. I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to there. So, any questions before we take off together on this journey tonight? All right, I'm going to need a thumbs up for when I start sharing the sound with you, that you can hear what is going on. Here we go. So this first we're listening to is Noah Ephraim, the hosts of The Promised.
This being Israel, the boys' reserve unit has a WhatsApp group. It's called Karov LaLochamim, which is a gentle play on words, meaning at once a relative of the fighters and at the same time close or near to the fighters in the sense of dear to the fighters. The metadata of the group says that its goal is, quote, to update the families that all is well with their loved ones, and also to send pictures every so often to buck up the mood of the families at home, end quote. The group was started maybe 10 days ago, and most of the messages come from Itai, the battalion commander, though they are sent from the phone of someone named Shuli, and it's hard to know just who writes them. The first message I saw came on December 4th, and it said, quote, "Dear families, I am updating you that the battalion and its fighters are carrying out their mission. All the battalion's forces, its commanders and fighters are healthy and in one piece. We will continue to update when it is possible to do so. Itai." The next day, a note was posted that read, quote, "An update from the field. Dear families, a hearty hello. Today, too, we are continuing to fulfill our assignments with determination." This next sentence is all in bold. "All of the fighters, male and female, commanders and soldiers, feel good and healthy. We are prepared and ready for the changing weather, and we are supplied with appropriate warm winter supplies. We will continue to update as much as possible. Itai." The day after that, we got this message, quote, "Dear families, a hearty hello." And the next sentence is all in bold. "All of the forces of the battalion are healthy and in one piece. We will continue to act with determination and initiative in the mission we were assigned. The weather has improved a great deal, which greatly contributes to keeping morale high in the battalion. We continue to guard and protect, and we will continue to update when possible. Itai." After that, a note came to the group that said, quote, "We are preparing a newspaper for the holiday of Hanukkah, and we would be happy if you let the families, parents, and partners of the soldiers know that if they want, they can dedicate a poem or a song and explain why they chose that song or poem, and they can add a picture. The dedication will be published in the newspaper. Send to Noah K., Kuf really, education officer," and then it gives her cell number. "Publicize this in your family groups!" Exclamation point, big purple heart emoji. After that, there was a note from Itai on Thursday, the first candle of Hanukkah. Quote, "Dear families, good afternoon and happy holiday." Then, all in bold, "All the fighters in the battalion are healthy and in one piece. We join in blessings for the holiday and send you a warm greeting. Tonight we will start lighting Hanukkah candles in memory of the heroism of the Maccabees who raised their heads in pride facing the Greeks. Every man and woman among the fighters of the battalion would be happy to celebrate this family holiday together with you, but we are proud to carry on.
Hold on. I don't know what happened. I'm going to back it up a little bit. Oh, that's really odd. Maybe I need to move it up a little bit. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to refresh the page. And then I think I kind of know where we are.
Hey, a poem or a song. Then, all in bold, all the fighters in the battalion are healthy and in one piece. We join in blessings for the holiday and send you a warm greeting. Tonight we will start lighting Hanukkah candles in memory of the heroism of the Maccabees who raised their heads in pride facing the Greeks. Every man and woman among the fighters of the battalion would be happy to celebrate this family holiday together with you, but we are proud to carry on the spirit of the Maccabees and lead the state of Israel to victory over the bitter enemy who attacked us. All of us here in the field regard you with enormous appreciation for your standing strong in these challenging days, especially during the days of Hanukkah that are approaching. Every one of our families is a great light, and your support and your love help us in this important battle to rid ourselves of the darkness that our enemies tried to foist on us. We would not succeed in our mission without you. Thank you for your support and for your strength. We will continue to update you as we can. In the meanwhile, may we all have a happy holiday. Itai. Next, the group got a message forwarded from a lieutenant colonel in charge of the IDF Reserve Personnel Planning Unit, quote, inviting you to a family fun day in any of the Cinema City complexes near where you live, end quote. Clicking through, you get free movie tickets for the whole family to whatever movie you want to see. Seeing this, Susan said, see, it's all paying off, big time. The next post to the group is a photograph of half a dozen soldiers standing in front of a huge Chanukiah with one blaze of oil-soaked fabric atop the rightmost labra, or arm, of the menorah, and another still higher blaze in the middle, the shamash. After that, a video came to the feed of many soldiers in a tent, and one of them is saying the blessing over normal-sized candles in a normal-sized Chanukiah.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה אמן ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה אמן הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים על הניסים ועל הנפלאות
The next day, there was a video of 26 soldiers in full combat gear, helmets on, Tavor assault rifles in their hands, kneeling or standing behind an Israeli flag alongside a big piece of cardboard, carelessly spray-painted with the name of their post. And behind them is concrete and rebar rubble of what was once a building, and one of them says,
משפחות יקרות, אוהבים אתכם, שולחים לכם חיזוקים, אנחנו פה שמחים, המורל גבוה, אוהבים אתכם, יאללה פלוגה אמא, אני בסדר!
Dear family, we love you. Thank you for your support. We are happy here. Our morale is high. We love you. Yalla, company. And everyone cheers, and one of the soldiers yells at the end, Ima, I am okay. After that, we got a message saying the IDF had sent us a gift card that we could redeem through a link. Susan said, see, all worth it. After that, there was another message from Itai, and it started with a quote. My heroic, glorious brothers, which quote comes from one of two places, or maybe both, a famous speech that Shmuel Goradish, a famous hero tank commander general, gave after the Six-Day War, and also from a famous song about a soldier who fell during the Yom Kippur War, which in any case was probably quoting the Goradish speech in the first place. Then, all in bold, dear families, happy holiday from the entire battalion family. We are all healthy and in one piece. When the people of Israel was cruelly attacked, and when our terrible enemy tried to harm us without mercy, when our fate as a nation sovereign in its own land was cast into doubt, the best of us were called to the flag, were called to stand, defend, and fight for country and homeland. And it seems that there is almost no difference between the story of the Maccabees that happened 2,000 years ago and our own time. The enemy is maybe different, but the esprit de corps, the righteousness of our path and the power with which we strike back, these have not changed. We are now 60 days since this war broke out, and Hanukkah is here with almost perfect timing. Like back then, today we are fighting for our state against a cruel enemy, and we will win. Judah Maccabee, the hero of the miracle of the Hanukkah revolt, and his father Matityahu and his 5 sons, they fought together as a family. We are also fighting together with you, dear families. Your strength, support, and spiritual fortitude are our armor and sword in this war. Without you, we would not prevail. Thank you. And one small word by way of conclusion. The pictures and movies we sent from the field are maybe a little dark, but they symbolize more than anything this unique historical time, which fits so well with the story of the holiday of Hanukkah. Maybe it is a little dark outside right now, but we are here to spread light, to light a new light of hope in the region and in the entire country. This is our mission today, like back then, and we will fulfill it. Happy holiday, Shabbat Shalom, and a quiet and relaxed weekend. The next day brought another very dark, shadowy video of Itai, the battalion commander, remarking remarks before he lit the Hanukkah candles. And for most of it, you can hardly see anything, though the candles give a tiny bit of illumination. And it went on for a while like this, with booms of artillery in the background.
אני לא חושב שיש חג שמסמל גבורה ושיש עיתוי כזה שמסמל
I don't think there is a holiday that better symbolizes heroism or a time that symbolizes what we are doing here today as a continuation of what the Maccabees did 2,000 years ago. This reality that was forced on us exactly 2 months ago on the 7th of October is not different than what the Greeks did thousands of years ago, or what the Romans did after them, or the Nazis, and Hamas, what they did here in the towns. And I think I would be very happy to be with our families, lighting candles in more comfortable, more pleasant places, less muddy, less rainy places. But there is no one prouder than me to be part of this important mission we are doing. And I am very proud to be here with you, carrying on the same heroism of the Maccabees that began thousands of years ago, end quote. Just after the video was posted, Shuli sent a message that said, quote, "Dear families, Shabbat Shalom and happy holiday. I join Itai, the battalion commander, and all of our comrades and brothers in the field in sending a happy holiday greeting to all of our extended family." I posted his video from the field with soldiers last night. Like Itai wrote, the video was dark for reasons of field security and security in general, and they do not have continuous lighting, which could be a danger to them, allowing them to be seen. To traditional and religious families, I apologize from the bottom of my heart for the late hour in which the video was sent. It was important for me to add subtitles to what Itai said, and as a result, they were sent late on Shabbat. I will try to see that this does not happen again. Shabbat Shalom and happy holiday, Shuli. After Shabbat, we got a message that went, quote, "Happy holiday and a good new week. All the forces of the battalion are healthy and in one piece." On Shabbat, the weather was pleasant and the atmosphere was very good. And alongside all the security activities, the guys also managed to rest, to chill out, and have a laugh together. We wish everyone a quiet and calm week. We will continue to update you. Shuli. Underneath that message was a message that read, in part, quote, "Ahead of next week, we would be happy to gather letters for every soldier, half a page sent to me, and I'll print it and try to make sure it gets to every soldier by the middle of the week. If we manage, great. I will try to clarify with the Division Psychological Health Officer tomorrow the format and principles to adhere to in writing the letters." The next day, the feed said, quote, "A good new week and happy holiday, dear families. As we wrote yesterday, the guys feel good and are carrying out their mission in the best possible way. We are getting ready for rainier, colder days, and because of this, we've made it possible for you to donate to the company. The Army provides basic needs of food, drink, etc., but we want to give the best to the soldiers and the commanders. Attached is a link to the company Paybox Group. We are collecting money for the sole purpose of buying things the soldiers ask for and nothing else. Every day we get a report of what is missing, and we want to fulfill every request we can. We suggest a sum of 100 shekels for each soldier. You can give more, less, or not give at all. We won't check or anything. All of us, the entire company, we are a single unit. Then there is a link to the pay box, and then may all of us, the soldiers at the front and the families at the home front, have a happy and quiet rest of the holiday, end quote. After that, there was a message about a new Gmail account that was being opened where you could send an email and it would be printed out and delivered to your soldier inside of Gaza. And then, 3 days ago, this message came into the feed. Dear battalion family, to our sadness, we are facing a hard night with Job-like news. During the battalion's operational activities, a compound strike was carried out against our forces. The force in the area was harmed, and there are deaths and injuries among our forces. And then this next part is all in bold. All the families of the injured and dead have been informed. Relevant representatives of the army and the battalion are with them and embracing them. All the rest of our battalion has reconnoitered together and are strengthening and embracing one another at these hard moments. This is a very difficult evening for all of us, and first and foremost for the families of the fallen. We embrace them in pain and are providing them with help and support in every way possible. Broader battalion family, we ask for your help and support in understanding that this is a difficult evening that demands a great deal of activity and coordination from our side, and we ask for your understanding that all of our attention, our abilities, and our time over the next few hours will be devoted entirely to offering assistance and aid to the families who need us. This next part again, all in bold. All the families involved in this event have been informed, and there are no further injured. We will continue to update Itai. After that came a message that said, in part, quote, as you have all already learned over the past weeks, I am always available and free to help to answer any question. I ask for your help and understanding in limiting the questions and inquiries, at least for the next hours, so that I can aid and help the families from the injured companies. This next sentence, all in bold. All the families of the soldiers involved in the event have been informed. There are no families who have not received notification, end quote. The next day, what came to the WhatsApp group was this, quote, the times of the funerals of our fallen brothers are Sergeant Major Itai Perry, may his memory be for a blessing, Monday, 1 p.m., the Modin Cemetery. Sergeant Major Ari Yigal Zanilman, may his memory be for a blessing, Monday, 5:30 p.m., Mount Herzl. Captain Eliyahu Yanovsky, may his memory be for a blessing, Tuesday, 10 a.m., Mount Herzl. Major Roman Bernstein, may his memory be for a blessing, Tuesday, 10 a.m., Cholon Cemetery. Major Eviatar Cohen, may his memory be for a blessing. The date of his funeral has not yet been set. Last night, this message came to the group from Itai, starting with a quote from Breshit, from Genesis, that goes, I seek my brother. Then it goes, quote, to our dear families, we are at the end of the second difficult evening for our battalion. Tonight was the last of the funerals for our 5 brothers, Ari Zandelman, Itai Perry, Eliyahu Yanovsky, Roman Bernstein, and Eviatar Cohen. May their memories be for a blessing. 5 fighters, 5 brothers, 5 life paths cut down before their time. Ari, Eliyahu, Itai, Roman, and Eviatar were meaningful and important figures in the life of the battalion, who led, loved, and cared for others. There was so much love for them among their friends, the fighters in the battalion. Their terrible loss leaves us hurting, with a hole in our hearts as a battalion family. Their absence is impossible to absorb, and it changes everything we believed and felt until now. What did not change were the feelings of love and concern we had for them in life. These warm, loving feelings will now be turned to their families, who lost their most precious thing of all. To the dear and beloved Zanelman, Perry, Yanovsky, Bernstein, and Cohen families, this is our promise to you. You will never walk alone. We will all be with you there, along the way, embracing, hugging, strengthening you as much as possible. These are difficult days for all of us, but we will absorb them. We, the women and men, fighters and commanders, and all of our families will absorb this pain, and we will get past it. Dear families, I want to praise you for the quick and enormous response of so many of you in this hour of difficulty. Hundreds of telephones and messages from all the companies have come ceaselessly, offering help and support to the families of the fallen and injured. Dear families, you are the IDF's secret weapon for victory in this war. The support, the commitment, and the help you have given one another in their difficult days, they are a fortified wall that will never fall, nor will we. Out of enormous loss, we will grow. Out of great pain, we will grow stronger. Out of terrible darkness, we will burst forth. May their memories be for a blessing. Itai.
Wow, huh? A glimpse into Israeli society, into the strength of family, and so much more. I'm curious if any of you have any reflections you'd like to share, your reaction to it, something you learned, something that didn't surprise you, something you wondered about. Yeah, Meira, start us off.
What I learned today was that this is the first war ever in Israel where soldiers have not gone home between missions. They're used to going home after a week or two and coming back, and their deployment has been continuous, and for many of them, there have been no communications with home, and that's really unusual. So I think an app group like this is a way of coping with that.
Sorry, Devorah, go ahead.
Yeah, you were muted.
Yeah,
It's okay. I think what's so clear is the bond among the, I don't know the right term, but the group, the whatever they're called, and how I could feel it just getting stronger and stronger day by day by day as they spoke. And then when this happened, the connection was just so strong. I felt like I was there. Like I felt like I could feel that the closeness that they had, and it's like there's this phantom space now because 5 of them are gone, and then they reach out to the families and they bring them into their circle and vice versa. And it's it's quite remarkable actually. It just feels really remarkable. You're muted.
so contrast that to pre-October 7th and what was going on in Israel with judicial reform and the split in society. And now everyone is unified. And just bookmark that because when we hear from Doniel Hartman and Yossi Klein HaLevi, they're going to have polar opposite opinions about what should happen now based upon Yossi Klein HaLevi's fear that the unity that they now feel could splinter into something very, very harmful for the state. And Ellen, please.
It was certainly very moving. And I was particularly the connection between them, the kind of love that they're kind of wrapping themselves in was so important. And I was also concerned with the goal still being to wipe out Hamas and the way they were referring to Hamas, which I 100% get if you're in that position, but is there a place for the culture to shift? I know nothing.
Exactly. Anyone else before we move on? Okay. So we are. I'm going to be sharing the Hartman podcast with you soon. But first, I want to share with you the pictures of the three hostages, the Israelis who were gunned down by the IDF. Because this is going to serve partly as the background of the heartbreak that Doniel Hartman and Yossi Klein HaLevi are going to address. And before we listen to that, you know, history seems to repeat itself. And so, that's not what I wanted. No, 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 no. Give me just a second. I was looking for something else. Okay. Here we go. So these are the words of Prophet Jeremiah that is going to end on an upbeat note, as most haftarot do. But here he is, there's a midrash that Rachel Imenu, Rachel, our mother, sits at the gates weeping for her children in exile. So here Jeremiah is talking about the Babylonian exile. And I'm going to chant this in Haftorah trope for you, the English on the left. Ko amar Adonai, Ko barama nishma, Nehi bechi tamrurim, Rachel mevaka al baneha, Me'ena lehinachem al baneha ki einenu. Ko amar Adonai, Minei kolech mi bechi, ve'einayech mi d'im'ah, ki yesh schar lif'ulatech, le'um Adonai, v'shavu mi'eretz oyev. Ve'yesh tikva le'acharoitech, le'um Adonai, v'shavu vanim ligvulam. Thus said Yudhevavi, a cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Thus says Yudhevavi, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears, for there's a reward for your labor, declares Adonai. They shall return from the enemy's land. And there is hope for your future, declares Yudhevavi. Your children shall return to their country. So is that not a reflection of exactly what's happening right now? So we keep this in mind as we listen to Doniel Hartman and Yossi Klein HaLevi. This is about a little over 20 minutes long. So get comfortable.
Hi, this is Doniel Hartman and Yossi Klein HaLevi from the Shalom Hartman Institute. And this is our podcast, For Heaven's Sake. Our special, maybe it's not so special anymore, our ongoing series, Israel at War. And today is day 72. And today, my heart is broken. I don't even fully know what I want to talk about. Possibly after October 7th, it's not sadness. It's deeper than that. There's a need to try to find an inner strength in the midst of something profoundly, profoundly broken. Seeing the three Israeli hostages, Yossi, they made it. For 70 days, we now know what they were experiencing. We now know that when the hostages were released, they had drugs, which were making them high and seemingly much more positive. They were beaten. They were terrified. They made it. They exited the valley of death. They exited and left the forces of barbarism. And they heard Israeli soldiers. And I'm trying to think about what they felt, how they were feeling at that moment. They were smart enough to know that it was dangerous, and they come out and their hands are raised and they're waving a white flag, and they took off their shirts and they're screaming and shouting, and then they get killed. One of them even escapes, and he hides back down in a tunnel and he shouts, "Save me, Hatzilu, Hatzilu," and he comes out and he's killed. Just my heart's broken. This shouldn't have been. It could have been a moment of such celebration, and that their lives ended after heroically surviving. My heart's also broken at what happened. I'm not talking about the army, and I hate these generalizations. But how did some people in our army reach that moment where they see somebody with their hands raised and they shoot? Yossi, it's a tough day, and I'm feeling it very, very deeply. I don't know what to call it other than to say my heart's broken. Where are you, my friend?
This is the worst day since October 7th, and that's saying a lot. I've been thinking about the soldiers who accidentally killed the hostages, thinking of the families of the hostages, thinking like you, what could have been a little mini Entebbe moment. And instead we have the antithesis of the Entebbe rescue. But you know, Doniel, I'm trying very hard not to let myself go there, not to be overwhelmed by emotion, because it's so easy. And the reason that I'm trying hard is because I'm afraid more than anything that this war is going to be stopped, either by pressure from within Israeli society to prioritize the hostages over winning the war. And this is the moment that, you and I talked about. This was the moment that I personally dreaded, when the Israeli public would be presented with an impossible decision. What comes first, saving your fellow Israelis or continuing the war? And I have to admit, and we've had this conversation, for me, the worst scenario is ending the war after going so far, after alienating so much of the world, creating such hatred against Israel, to then end the war inconclusively. That's the greatest nightmare for me. So I'm suppressing my emotions, Doniel. I'm forcing myself not to go there.
I hear you, and I understand you. I'm not with you, but I understand you. And that's for heaven's sake,
Yeah, I would say, if we had to sum it up in one line, that's what we're trying to do here.
Because I'm so not with you.
Yeah.
But let me explain where I'm not with you. I feel that if we don't connect to our emotions, we're not Israel anymore. And we lost. Who are we? I hear you. You're afraid that this conversation is going to have political consequences. And I appreciate it. And last night I was called. It wasn't even a decision. I was literally like a magnet, pulled to go on Saturday night to the hostage family's tent and to the gathering. I was pulled. I literally didn't have a choice. I just knew that I had to be there also. This is what makes Israel so tough. But I don't want to shut down. I shut down all the time. It's true. Let the truth be told, I do shut down all the time. And Israel forces you to shut down. But I want to be in a place where I am completely connected to what I feel, and despite that, I continue. I can't win your way, Yossi. I hear your tone and I know you. Maybe it's because I'm better at suppressing emotions than you are. Maybe, but I hear you, and I don't want to talk about victory right now. I almost feel like it's just that'll be my conversation tomorrow. But there has to be room for this powerful mourning, for erect to look at it. I have to see the hostages for all that they're experiencing. I have to feel these three boys. If I don't feel it, then who am I, Yossi? If I just say, okay, this was like, I heard Netanyahu, these are tragic losses, and I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to do something that maybe you're more realistic. Maybe, I don't know. I just can't go there. I have to stop today and not talk about tomorrow and not talk about the larger political consequences. I can't do calculations of hostages and war and victory. Just what those
See,
kids felt, Yossi, I can't get it out of my head. Like what they felt at that moment, I just can't silence it. And I don't want to.
see, I really respect that, Doniel. I respect your not just need, insistence that we fully absorb this moment. But when you called me last night and asked if I wanted to come with you to the way you phrased it was to the solidarity gathering, not as a demonstration. And you said it in such a beautiful way. You said, I feel I have to stand with the families. And I was so tempted. I couldn't tell you no right away. I said, let me sit with it. Because I wanted to go with you. I wanted to stand with the families more than anything. And then I thought about it. And I said, this is going to be a demonstration. It's going to be a demonstration to demand that the government pause the war, prioritize negotiations, however one wants to phrase it, right? The slogan last night was now, right? Now, achshav. And look, you and I spent this last year demonstrating against this government every Saturday night. I have no problems demonstrating against this government, but not now. Dafka now, not during the war. And I know how tempting it is for Israelis to demand of the government to change direction. And there's a part of me that wants to do that too, because we've talked about this before, Doniel, in our podcast. This is drawing on the deepest, not just Israeli ethos, but the Jewish ethos of Pidyon Shvuyim, of redeeming prisoners. But I'm terrified of reopening our schisms. We have this thin layer of national unity, which I regard as a kind of miracle. And it's allowed us to get this far in the war. And to jeopardize that almost inconceivable consensus before October 7th, who could have imagined we would be able to come together from left to center to right? I'm so afraid of reopening that schism, even if the issues are different. It's going to reopen that wellspring of mutual suspicion, of mutual rage, and we will not be able to win from that place.
Again, I hear you. I wonder what victory is going to look like if we don't maintain that openness to pain. Again, I'm never accusing you of this, and I don't want to be mistaken, but ultranationalism, an uber alles, like overall, scares me. And I love Israel, and I want to fight, and I feel morally compelled to continue the fight. But there has to be other things beyond victory that we never forget. I know your fear, and you're right, because Israelis, we could lose it in a second. But there has to be something else, because otherwise, what are we fighting for? And it's both, I was at the demonstration. It's cute, I use the word demonstration. Here I'm telling our editors, don't cut it out. I was at the solidarity thing. Don't ever say, Yossi, Doniel, I told you I was right. It was,
Are you kidding? I'm saving up a list.
We went there last night and there were masses of people. And at some moment, somebody mentioned Netanyahu's name. And there started this chant, busha, busha, shame, shame, which is the court chant of the demonstrations of the last year. Shame. That was like the essence of what our protest was. That this is not what a Jewish state is. Busha. This is not what you do with democracy. Busha. And some people just started to say busha. And then they were silenced. And somebody got up and said, busha is not our slogan. This is not a gathering to declare blame and shame. It's a gathering to call for achshav, for now. And you're right. You know, when shalom achshav, the weakest part of peace now was the word now. You know, we know that. The now is always a problem. But what the families were, and the voices were so clear. There were two parts last night, which made me so happy to be there, and I embraced both of them. One was just being with them, and that's part of what they talked about. Some of the spokespersons, you know, they just said, we see you. You're not transparent. We see you. And for families, like in the midst of this horror, could you imagine? I could imagine a family now wondering, if the army's successful, will we ever be able to get out a hostage which we don't kill? Because how do you know the difference between them and a Hamas terrorist? And just to hug them at this horror that they are in midst right now.
Yeah.
And the second one was a demand that I accept. None of us said, oh, you can't have a temporary ceasefire. It's going to destroy the war. It turned out that it didn't. We had a ceasefire for 10 days and the army continued. It might have made it a little harder, but we continued. Could we have a ceasefire for another 10 days now? Or no one's giving us everybody for another 5 days. Get all the women, the children, the above 60s, and I'm as 65, I'm particularly sensitive. Get frail, get the wounded, maybe insist as a condition that the Red Cross comes to visit. As the first condition, before one more hostage, before one more exchange take place. Condition explicit number one, I want Red Cross to see every single one of them, every wounded, anybody who's in danger. Could we stand another 10 days? I think we could. And what they were asking for, they were very careful. Nobody said at the gathering, stop the war. Nobody also, very interesting, blamed soldiers for shooting, and that wasn't part of the conversation. And I think we have to talk about that too. But nobody wanted to talk about that yesterday. They embraced the army and they encouraged them. They just said, you know what I want from my government? I want from you a plan. Don't just tell me you want to win and you want to bring the hostages home. Tell me what you're offering. Talk to me. Say, I now want this. I'm willing to give. Like, I'll give you an example. I am willing to give terrorists with blood on their hands. I'm willing now for the next 60, we don't even know how many are still alive. For the next 60, 70, for the next 100, we're willing to release anyone. I don't know. I could argue about it. But what they're asking is say something. Don't just declare a goal without any particulars. That's all they said, Yossi. And I could embrace that. Does that scare you too, to the same degree? Not scaring in an irrational level. I mean, for you, could you stand there also?
I hear that. I hear that, Doniel, and certainly framed in that way, of course. Another 10 days won't appreciably make a difference one way or the other, I hope. It's more a question of launching a new protest movement. This is what opens up the wounds that we're papering over for the duration of the war. That doesn't sit well with me. That worries me because I know what's also waiting on the other side. On the right and the far right, we know the ugliness that's already simmering. You hear it. You hear it on the right's TV station, Channel 14. You hear the vulgarity of counter-protesters who show up at the hostage tent to taunt the hostage families. It's inconceivable. In the Israel that we knew, could you imagine such a thing? So something has changed here, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of opening it up. But I wanted to pick up on what you said a moment ago, Doniel, which is the unbearable question that we nevertheless need to open up, which is what happened? What happened when 3 people emerged from the tunnels with a white flag stripped to their waist so that it was clear they didn't have an explosive belt on them? What was going on there? And I think that the fear that I had initially was, is this now standard operating principle for the army? How widespread is this? And I was enormously reassured that it was the army itself that came clean on this. The chief of staff, HaLevi, who I think has, by the way, been terrific through this war, took full responsibility and said, this negates the most basic principles of the army. And so I need to believe, as someone sitting on the home front, I need to believe that this is not standard operating procedure, and that the army is now going to deeply internalize the enormity of what happened. But on the other hand, Doniel, the unease that I have is that it cuts too close to comfort to the event that we spoke about last week that happened in Jerusalem, the shooting of Yuval Kestelman during the terrorist attack on the highway leading into Jerusalem, where this is a guy who had neutralized the terrorists, was a hero. And he's on his knees with his hands in the air, again, stripped to his waist, calling out in Hebrew. And a soldier who turns out to have been one of the hilltop settlers, the most far right of Israeli society, gunned him down. Now, of course, he said, look, it was a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. The mistake was he thought it was a terrorist. But even so, as we discussed, there are rules of engagement. You don't violate those rules. So there's something here that we as a society need to open up. And here's where I feel that if we pass over this in silence, to echo what you said before, we lose something essential about what it means to be Israeli.
Here we're much closer together. You mentioned Yuval Kestelman, and I remember when you and I were talking, we took some comfort in the fact that the shooter was from the Hilltop Youth. Because, that's the group we want to be embarrassed from. Or that's the group which has morally failed. Their Zionism is not our Zionism. And it's wonderful whenever we fail if it comes from that community. It's like, okay, what did you expect? We told you, it's just one more example. But these soldiers weren't Hilltop Youth. And again, I want to reiterate what I said. I'm not claiming, and nor am I interested in speaking about widespread actions. I have no idea. Like you, and I think you mentioned this in a previous, but we know our soldiers and we know our kids. But I wonder how many people have been shot who aren't Jews, who don't make it into the newspaper. It's when do we hear? When do we hear? Which reports are being heard? When does HaLevi get up and he said, this was a failure? He calls it, I'm personally responsible. We failed. This is not the military rules of engagement, and we are going to reinforce them. Now, you know what that means, Yossi? It means it's not the soldier, and I never like to blame the private. I never want to, even though privates could do plenty wrong. But there's an environment. Now, part of battle is there's an environment that you can't control. There's fear, there's terror, there's anger. It's all there.
And it's also, we're dealing with Hamas terrorists who are dressed as civilians. They're not in uniform. And also, Doniel, who knows how many instances there were of terrorists pretending to surrender, and it was an ambush. So
you see, exactly, who knows?
We don't know. We don't.
But part of the challenge, Yossi, is that when we say who knows, that's supposed to be a question mark.
Right.
Who knows is not supposed to be an answer.
Well put.
Right? And that's what you just said.
Yeah.
And who knows could be, a blanket.
It's not a rhetorical question. It's a real question.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I know without doubt that the soldiers fighting in Sajaiya, and that's where they were, who had suffered horrific deaths. We have to remember Hamas is not meeting us in the battlefield. They're constantly coming out of tunnel piers and holes in the ground. And the soldiers themselves, I just want to hug them. But that's also part of why my heart is broken, because I know that the commanders aren't necessarily telling them everything they should be telling them. And I know I don't want our soldiers to endanger their lives for higher moral principles. I never want to do, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be an armchair moral philosopher pontificating about the risks you should take. But in this case, that we know there were no risks. We know the details of the story. I almost can't tell them over again. They're so depressing. My heart is broken because there are people, some of us are losing it. Some of us after October 7th, some of us after losing their friends, some of us because they've been in hell for now 72 days. And the war, Hamas, is not a pushover. They're brave. They're coordinated. They haven't been broken. We want victory, and victory's not going to be easily achievable. And in that environment, there's going to be people who lose what we stand for. And it breaks my heart. And we're going to have to give an accounting not only for that. What is this going to mean for Israeli society after the war? Where are these people going to find themselves? Have they become ultra-nationalists? Are they people still committed to the fact that all human beings are created in the image of God? I don't know. As you said, who knows? We don't know. But today, my heart is broken. And I both mourn and I worry. And I ask myself, what do we have to do to heal and to move forward? This is, for heaven's sake, Israel at War, day 72.
So, Ellen, they asked the same question you asked. Who knows? Right? Not as a statement, but as a question. And I think it's instructive to hear two Israelis who I highly respect wrestling over the same questions that we have. Right? It also makes me wonder if there are Palestinians or any of Arab nations having these conversations. I want to hope so, but who knows? Anyone want to share anything that came up for you? I do want to thank you for hanging in here, because this is not easy stuff. But I tell you, it's a lot. I'm grateful not to be going through this and listening to this by myself. I mean, I did the first time, but it's even more powerful for me the second time. And yeah, Ellen, go ahead.
It's truly amazing and a privilege to listen to these two men who know so much so deeply and who are in disagreement, but really get, bringing more this way and more this way. And it's an impossible question. And it was amazing to listen to them. There's so much caring and wisdom in how they brought out each new piece. And you could sometimes feel they were like trying to find the words to go with what their experience was. It wasn't just talking from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for bringing it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Judith, and then Devorah.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's what a great demonstration of two people who have so much respect for each other and who have a difference of opinion. And, that should be the model. And, one of my heartbreaks has been to see these places of higher education who aren't figuring out how to have dialogues and how to educate. Historical education. That's what should be happening on college campuses. And then what I want to say is about this. This I feel really nauseated, like I could vomit almost. Literally, I feel sick that I can barely take in what happened with these 3 hostages. I mean, it's so heartbreaking. And, I think about, I hope this isn't like offensive, but I just, I was a psychotherapist who specialized in that age group. And, suicide is such a big epidemic. And I just feel like the whole thing's horrible on so many levels, but I seem to be dropping into the place where the ones who did it, how will they ever live with themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, and so, in a way, I know we don't have this in our culture, like the way a Japanese, or there's some cultures, I don't even want to say who, but it's a save face thing, which I don't even think we don't have that in that regard, I don't think. But the burden of shame and guilt will be devastating.
Yeah, me too. I was as shaken up by what happened, and then my mind immediately raced towards the ones who did the shooting.
Too, this isn't the same thing, but I was in my park the other day and a dog bit a woman like really bad. She had 7 puncture wounds in her leg, and I stayed with her, and she was very angry. And the dog bit her dog, and it's a second time, and she wants that dog put down. But I had also went and stood with the woman whose dog it was, you know, and it's like I have so much. They love this dog, and I have so much compassion for them too, to have to put down their dog, you know? So for me, it's feeling like a similar thing because I was right there, but it's not the same. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
With
sure. Yeah.
the dog.
Ellen, I see you have your hand up too. Devor, did you have something you wanted to say? I do want to share this video with you before we end. And then just a reminder that at 9 o'clock is a Shiva Minyan for Janice. And it's not in this room. So we will sign out and then sign back into the room that we use for the prayerful gathering. Ellen, I want to hear from Jay. He hasn't had a chance to contribute. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just afraid it's going to be even broader than just the soldiers who shot these hostages who apparently had been escaped 5 days ago. Now is the information that, and this is not a traditional war, and the amount of collateral damage, and that's a euphemism for innocent people killed, children injured on both sides, that the numbers are just tremendous. That this is going to be something traumatic that is going to impact all of these soldiers for most of their lives. I just want to share. You guys are of an age that you'll probably remember this. I found this at a yard sale a couple of years ago, but it just seems appropriate now. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, sure. War is not healthy for children
Yeah.
and other living things.
And it's absolutely true. And I'm just holding this with hope that yes, we have another ceasefire. I mean, let's find some. There has to be some safety valve before things explode even further, and there has to be some kind of a plan.
So thank you, Jay. Ellen and Devora, with your permission, I want to share this video and to send us off on perhaps a note of, if not hope, at least uplift. And for me, it's acknowledging that it's always the artists who bring this to the fore, and that art saves lives, and how powerful art can play in our lives and as we struggle with everything in our lives. So there's this really singer and songwriter named Yigal Oshrei, who wrote this song that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to try to time the translation to the video. He wrote it before the war, and he wrote this song, which is called The End of Depression, or Making One's Way Out of Depression in English, for a friend of his. So it's a very personal song. And which is why some of the lyrics are not going to fit the matzav, but the whole thing fits the matzav. And he released it after October 7th. And I didn't know this when I found out about the song, but that it's kind of become like an anthem for the hostages being released. And when I mentioned the song this morning to one person who's in our Chavruta, he says, oh yeah, I've heard that song many times, because if you turn on Israeli TV, whether it's like a late at night or early in the morning, they're playing this song. And then he said to me, there's an additional song that's been written by Aviv Geffen for Maya Lemberg. And Maya Lemberg is the one who was holding her dog, who took her dog into Gaza, who then was released. And I have not heard the song yet. I'm going to check it out. And if I feel like it's something that you want to hear, I will share with you at a later time.
And Mark, you know that is Enid's niece, Maya Lemberg, with the dog.
Oh, that's right. I had forgotten about that.
Who were on the retreat, Enid, and what's her husband's name? They drove up from Florida.
Sid.
He made the jewelry. It's their niece. You got it. So.
Thanks for reminding me of that, Judith. So here we go. And I'm assuming you'll be able to hear it. And I'll try to keep up with the translation. You can hear it?
אתם יודעים מה הדרך הכי טובה לצאת מדיכאון? המשפחה, החברים, אולי לצאת לבילויים, שיחות עמוקות, שיחות של הנפש בלילה, להתמודד עם שינויים, ההרגלים הישנים, הנשמה במלחמה עם הקרמה. עוד יבואו ימים טובים, אני מבטיח. עוד יבואו ימים טובים. גם בשעות החשוכות של הלילה, תמיד יהיה כוכב קטן שיעיר לך את עצמך, את הדרך הביתה. תמיד זה הכי חשוך לפני הזריחה. מיליון רכבות דוהרות עד אוסטרליה, מחפש רחוק את מה שנמצא לך מתחת לאף, כל מכשול זה מדליה, קם ונופל אבל בדרך שלך. להתמודד עם הפחדים, לקפוץ למים עמוקים, לשחות עד הסוף, להגיע לחוף עד הלילה, להאזין גם לשירים, כי זמרים הם הרופאים הכי טובים שיש למדע להציע. עוד יבואו ימים טובים, אני מבטיח. עוד יבואו ימים טובים. גם בשעות החשוכות של הלילה, תמיד יהיה כוכב קטן שיעיר לך את עצמך, את הדרך הביתה. תמיד זה הכי חשוך לפני הזריחה. מיליון רכבות דוהרות עד אוסטרליה, מחפש רחוק את מה שנמצא לך מתחת לאף, כל מכשול זה מדליה, קם ונופל אבל בדרך שלך. בדרך שלך, בדרך שלך. מחפש רחוק את מה שנמצא לך מתחת לאף כל מכשול זה מדליה קם ונופל אבל בדרך שלך
May we all find our way to the light. May we all find music and poetry and friends who show us the way and light the way for us. And may we continue to make sanctuary here for each other and to search out different voices so that we can stand on both sides at the same time. Thank you, my dear friends. I will see some, if not all, of